Your bleeding has stopped.
How did you? It's nothing. It's just a scratch. Dr. Lecter, whose head is in that bottle?
Jonathan Demme started his career in B-movie producer Roger Corman's stable, where a film's genre was its main exploitable element. The genre of a film is the quickest way to attract an audience and signpost to them what to expect. Perhaps it was here that Demme gained an understanding of different genres and developed his very adaptable style. Throughout his varied and acclaimed career, he is perhaps best known for directing the Oscar-winning drama Philadelphia, starring Tom Hanks, but Demme also made quirky films such as Melvin and Howard, Something Wild, and Married to the Mob, as well as music documentaries including Stop Making Sense, featuring the band Talking Heads, and dramatic films such as Beloved and Rachel Getting Married. All of these movies demonstrate Demme's competence to work within any genre. However, Demme's first foray into the thriller genre would not only give the audience what they expect, but it would also innovate and evolve the genre even further, taking the audience into darker, more disturbing psychological territory with gruesome images to match. That first foray was The Silence of the Lambs.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Based on the best-selling book by Thomas Harris, The Silence of the Lambs follows FBI cadet Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster, as she's suddenly dropped into a critical investigation to catch a serial killer called Buffalo Bill. In order to track down Buffalo Bill, Clarice is assigned to extract information from the highly intelligent but dangerous serial killer Dr. Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins. What transpires is a race against the clock to stop Buffalo Bill from killing his next victim. But much more than that, The Silence of the Lambs goes to great depths to understand the psychological motivations not only of the killers but of Clarice herself, as she fights her darkest fears in order to bring the killers to justice.
Lambs. They were screaming.
They were slaughtering the spring lambs.
They were screaming.
Sheriff, this type of sex crime has certain aspects I'd just as soon discuss in private. You know what I mean?
The Silence of the Lambs takes place in a world which is depicted to be hostile towards women. The obvious example is Buffalo Bill being a killer of women, and the dark pit where he traps his victims is a metaphor for this world. Another example is the nightmarish institution that Clarice enters when she visits Lecter. She walks into a hellish environment bathed in red light to witness a primitive gallery of barbaric masculinity where she's treated with profanity. Even the allegedly sophisticated Lecter can't help but try to belittle Clarice based on her appearance and her sexual attractiveness in an attempt to assert his dominance over her.
You know how quickly the boys found you, all those tedious, sticky fumblings in the backseats of cars, while you could only dream of getting out, getting anywhere, getting all the way to the apple.
Lecter uses the same approach when he belittles a female senator who's the mother of Buffalo Bill's current victim by asking her if she breastfed her daughter, cutting through her professional status and highlighting her vulnerabilities as a woman.
Toughened your nipples, didn't it? Oh, son of a bitch. Amputate a man's leg and he can still feel it tickling. Tell me, Mom, when your little girl is on the slab, where will it tickle you?
Take this thing back to Baltimore.
However, it's not only the perceived villains of the piece that treat the women with scorn. The casual belittling of women happens all throughout. When Clarice is sent to visit Lecter, Chilton, the sleazy head of the mental institution, makes advances on Clarice and suggests that she's only been selected because she's Lecter's type and she's just there to turn Lecter on. When Chilton hits on Clarice, she diplomatically turns down his advances, but from that moment on, Chilton begins to treat Clarice with hostility. But most surprising of all, in a telling scene, Clarice's mentor, Crawford, uses the fact that Clarice is a woman to get privacy with a local sheriff, much to the irritation of Clarice.
When I told that sheriff we shouldn't talk in front of a woman, it really burned you, didn't it? It was just Smokes, darling. I had to get rid of him.
Matters, Mr. Crawford. Cops look at you to see how to act. Matters.
When we first meet Clarice, we see that although she's slight, she's willing and more than able to push herself to her physical limits. She's tougher than she might appear. This toughness ultimately proves essential for what she has to overcome, with not only the physical trials to become an agent, but also the mental ones in order to face up to someone as manipulative and cunning as Lecter. Beyond that, however, Demme's depiction of this very masculine world shows us that Clarice is forced to fight to prove that she's an equal, not only physically, but also through her intelligence and ingenuity.
Stuck.
I could return tomorrow with my son.
You just stay here. I'll be back in 1 minute. If this door should fall down or anything else, this is the number for our Baltimore field office. Now, they know that you're with me. You call them if anything should happen.
We begin by coveting what we see every day. Don't you feel eyes moving over your body, Clarice? And don't your eyes seek out the things you want?
To further illustrate the threat of the male world, Demi uses a very powerful visual device, and that's the use of the point of view shot. On several occasions, whenever Clarice is in a scene with a male character, she is the subject of their gaze. They always look directly into the camera at her. We see this with Crawford, Chilton, Lecter, and even the timid and nerdy Pilcher, the bug specialist, who awkwardly flirts with Clarice.
You ever go out for cheeseburgers and beer? The amusing house wine?
Are you hitting on me, Doctor?
Yes.
Through the visual motif, we're witnessing the objectification of Clarice as a woman. It adds to Clarice's visual unease, as she rarely looks dead into the camera the way her male counterparts do. And in the case of her exchanges with Lecter, his growing dominance over her is further accentuated as the camera moves closer and closer to his eyes. He's in control of their discussions and delves deeper and deeper into her psyche as he makes assumptions about her past that usually center around her sexual experiences, which are thinly veiled attempts to overpower her.
Did the rancher make you perform fellatio? Did he sodomize you?
No. He was a very decent man.
Something that's always stood out to me in The Silence of the Lambs is the repeated casual objectification and gazing at Clarice by men in even the most incidental scenes, such as when Clarice and her friend Ardelia are jogging on the FBI campus, the patients in the institution, the police in Virginia as she investigates a related murder, and even in a throwaway shot, we see Clarice walking through an airport and a passing man looks her up and down. All of this shows us that she's always under the scrutiny of men. The character of Buffalo Bill embodies all of these threats. Initially, his gaze is his weapon. He uses night vision goggles to locate his female victims, and when he captures his victims, they're just objects to him. He only sees them as a piece of skin. When he torments Catherine, his victim, in his lair, he refers to her as it, removing any humanity from her, and again, viewing her as an object.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
What's more fascinating about Bill is that he too is the victim of the male gaze, his own. He loathes himself so much that he wants to use the skins of his victims to make a woman suit for himself, so that he too will be desired like a woman. He is not driven by the endless need to consume human flesh like Lecter, however. Instead, the flesh he gathers fuels his need to transform.
Was it a butterfly?
Yes, a moth. Just like the one we found in Benjamin Raspail's head an hour ago. Why does he place them there, Doctor?
The significance of the moth is change. Caterpillar into chrysalis or pupa, and from thence into beauty. Our belly wants to change too.
Transformation is at the heart of Clarice's journey, and it's a journey she's unwillingly found herself on, and in order to complete the journey, she will have to face up to the traumas of her past. Through Clarice's conversations with Lecter, it's revealed that she was devastated by the loss of her father, which has created deep-rooted fears around abandonment. As Lecter delves deeper, Clarice recounts a story where she failed to save a lamb and was forced to abandon it because she wasn't strong enough to carry it.
You still wake up sometimes, don't you? You wake up in the dark. Hear the screaming of the lambs.
By joining the FBI and taking on the task of catching Buffalo Bill, she's exercising the demons of her past, but also growing in strength against the things that are there to oppress her. As Clarice makes breakthroughs with her investigation, we see her growing confidence. She becomes stronger and more assertive, but also she unwittingly inspires and empowers other young women that she encounters.
Is that a good job, FBI agent? You get to travel around and stuff? I mean, better places than this.
Sometimes you do.
In the final set piece, when Clarice locates Bill, she's plunged into darkness and at the mercy of his gaze as he watches her through his night vision goggles and reaches out to try to touch her. In this moment, Clarice is forced to confront her fears, and by defeating him, She symbolically refuses to be objectified any longer and uses her training as an agent to put him away and bring light to the darkness. Clarice rescues Catherine, her lamb, and this act absolves her of her childhood trauma, completing Clarice's transformation. In the closing scene, we see Clarice graduate and become an FBI agent, and with this, she wins the approval of Crawford, her father figure. Their conversation is filmed objectively. There are no more shots from Crawford's point of view, or anyone else for that matter. They're equals now as they shake hands.
Your father would have been proud today. Don't forget your phone call.
It's at this point that Clarice's other father figure interrupts proceedings. Lecter calls Clarice and informs her that he's free and that he won't be looking for her. And as Clarice surveys the room, hoping he's nearby, she finds he's nowhere to be seen. And in the closing moment, Lecter hangs up on Clarice, not only creating concern for her professionally, but also personally, as he renews her sense of abandonment yet again. So that's my take on The Silence of the Lambs. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Turns? If I help you, Clarice, it will be turns with us too. Quid pro quo. I tell you things, you tell me things. Not about this case, though. About yourself. Quid pro quo. Yes,